The story begins with a reminder of a regret from 10 years ago. Sanada has lived for a decade wishing he had confessed to his high school history teacher. It was not simply admiration, it was earnest love. One night, he falls asleep dwelling on these thoughts, only to wake up back in a high school classroom. Confused, he looks around and sees Fujimoto, a seatmate he has not seen since graduation. Wondering if this is a hyper-realistic dream, Sanada checks his flip phone and is stunned to see the date is April 24th from 10 years ago. He realizes he has time-leaped to his sophomore year with his memories intact. Just as he processes this, the lesson ends, and the teacher calls him out to see her in the staff office. He is mesmerized, realizing it's Hiragi-sensei, his longtime crush. As she leaves the room, Fujimoto teases him about getting caught using his phone. Sanada follows her into the corridor, where she stops to demand the device he was playing with. Catching the scent of her shampoo, the reality of the situation hits him. This is the real Hiragi he loved. Believing this might still be a dream, he decides to seize the moment. He takes her hand and impulsively confesses his love. Startled, Hiragi asks him to repeat himself. Panic sets in, and Sanada immediately backpedals, claiming it was nothing. She dismisses the odd behavior and instructs him to retrieve his phone after school. Back in the classroom, Sanada feels helpless, thinking his second youth is ruined before it began, while Fujimoto assumes his friend is just upset about the seized phone. After school, Sanada heads to the staff office, worried about facing her. Inside, Hiragi returns his device, lecturing him gently about following rules. Sanada, however, is distracted by her beauty and blurts out that her blouse button is undone. Flustered, she quickly fixes it, but teases him, saying she is glad he is a healthy high school boy. She offers a deal. If he keeps this mistake a secret, she will not report his phone usage to his homeroom teacher. Sanada agrees and tries to extend the conversation, asking if he can visit her again to talk. Hiragi shuts him down, stating that the office is not a place for students to hang out and that she is busy. That night, he lay in bed, depressed that his confession was brushed aside and he was told not to return. However, he recalls she looked happy as he left. Suddenly, his phone vibrates. Expecting a text from Fujimoto, he is shocked to see a message from Hiragi instead. Sanada stares at his phone in surprise, realizing his sensei must have secretly saved his number while his device was confiscated. To his shock, the message is a thank you for his earlier confession. He panics for a moment, wondering if she actually heard him, but a follow-up text confirms she did. She admits she has thought about it a lot and agrees to date him, even if the acceptance is just over text for now. Overjoyed that his feelings have finally reached her, Sanada nervously replies, thanking her and agreeing that texting is fine. He flips his phone face down, heart pounding as he waits. When it vibrates, he nearly knocks it off the table in his anxiety. Her reply is playful, mentioning that his quick response surprised her so much she almost dropped her phone while relaxing. Sanada's imagination immediately begins to run wild, but he frantically shakes his head to eliminate the thoughts. He tries to steer the conversation back to serious matters, asking why she agreed considering how awkward his confession was. She explains that when he grabbed her hand, her heart skipped a beat and she found his desperation cute. Reading this, Sanada feels his happiness meter hitting the limit, his heart ready to burst out of his chest. However, reality sets in, and he worries about the risk of being discovered. He texts her, asking if they will be okay since a commotion would be bad. She ignores the negativity and tells him she will make lunch for him tomorrow so they can eat together. Sanada is happy about the food but questions the logistics, noting that being seen eating together would be highly suspicious. She assures him she has a key to the world history prep room where nobody goes. He agrees, requesting fried chicken as a side dish. She sends a Roger, adding a cheeky warning for him to stop imagining her. Sanada yells out a denial, though he is clearly guilty of doing exactly that. The next day, Sanada visits the teacher's office during the 10-minute break. To anyone watching, it looks like a student asking about a difficult question. But on the paper between them, they are writing secret notes. As she tucks her hair behind her ear, Sanada wonders what a 24-year-old woman is doing, making his heart race in a faculty office. While verbally discussing a difficult problem for appearances, she writes a note complaining that it is hard to ignore him in class. Sanada writes back, complimenting her skirt. She asks if it suits her, and when he writes that it looks cute, she blushes. Sanada thinks she looks even more adorable when embarrassed. Suddenly, while other teachers are present in the room, she reaches under the desk and grabs his hand. Sanada panics internally, wondering how she can be so bold as to hold a student's hand in broad daylight. She squeezes tighter, whispering that this is payback for making her heart race earlier. Sanada tries to pull away, but as he looks at her, he realizes that despite her bold move, the teacher is turning just as red as he is. Later that day, Fujimoto chases after Sanada, shouting complaints that friends are supposed to spend their lunch breaks together. Ignoring the lecture, Sanada slips into the world history prep room and slams the door shut, relieved to have secured some alone time. However, he is surprised to find Hiragi standing on a ladder. She climbs down to greet him and sets up their lunch on a desk. Sanada comments that he finds women who can cook very attractive, causing Hiragi to blush and call him naive. However, when he opens the lunchbox she prepared, he is baffled to find it filled to the brim with nothing but fried chicken. When he points out the lack of balance, she playfully pokes his cheek, arguing that the lemon seasoning provides enough refreshment. Sanada mentally notes that despite her mature appearance, Hiragi is actually a massive airhead. Hiragi opens her own lunch, which is perfectly normal, and starts eating. Sanada realizes there are no chopsticks with his box. She admits she left them out on purpose and picks up a piece of chicken, telling him to open wide. Sanada feels like he could die of happiness as she feeds him. She continues to share her own side dishes, feeding him a piece of octopus next. Suddenly, the door handle turns. Hiragi urgently whispers for him to hide, and Sanada scrambles underneath the desk just in time. A male teacher enters, apologizing for the intrusion. He drops off some documents and leaves, reminding Hiragi to lock up. Once the coast is clear, Hiragi peeks under the desk to tell him it is safe. Sanada crawls out, his face burning red from the incredibly awkward position he was forced into. Hiragi teases him. Flustered by her lack of hesitation, Sanada swears he will hide somewhere else next time. Hiragi just smiles and says he's cute when he panics, leaving him unsure whether she's being calculating or naturally airheaded. Later that night, the two talk over the phone to plan their weekend. Sanada suggests hanging out to play video games on Saturday, but Hiragi immediately shuts down the idea. She asks him what he would want to do if he had a girlfriend, implying that they should go on a proper date instead. The following day, Sanada stands in front of Hiragi's home, waiting for their date. As soon as he rings the doorbell, she sprints to the entrance and tackles him into a tight hug, saying she has been waiting for him. He tries to suggest they move inside first, but she refuses to let go. Leaning back, she insists that when they are alone, he must stop using formal honorifics and just call her by her name. Sanada notices the distinct smell of alcohol on her breath. She drags him inside, admitting that the teachers were out drinking earlier. Sanada heads to the kitchen to get her some water. Watching him, she asks if he is used to looking after people like this. Sanada claims his father gets drunk often, though in his head, he realizes he is actually used to this because of a troublesome co-worker, a detail he decides to keep to himself. He returns with the water, only to panic when Hiragi casually begins changing clothes. Sanada shouts at her to have some modesty, turning away in embarrassment. Once she has changed into comfortable clothes, she thanks him for the water, telling him she feels safe enough to wear whatever she wants around him. Sanada, realizing she is quite drunk, suggests he should probably head home. Hiragi refuses to let him leave and suggests they sleep together. Reluctantly, Sanada joins her, but stiffly announces he will not make a move on a drunk person, worried that people might misunderstand the situation. Hiragi teases him, asking if he knows that a girlfriend is allowed to do things like this for her boyfriend. She pulls the comforter over their heads to hide them from the world. Under the covers, she leans in, and they share a few romantic kisses. However, right afterward, Hiragi instantly falls asleep, leaving a wide-awake Sanada to suffer through a sleepless night with her warmth pressed against his back. The next morning, he wakes up to the sound of birds chirping. He greets Haruka, who is already awake. She leans in close, teasing him right from the start of the day. When Sanada gets flustered by her proximity, she playfully asks what the difference is now compared to the affection they shared before. She moves to the kitchen to start cooking. Sanada asks if she is making breakfast, but she explains that she is preparing lunch. She tells him they are going for a drive to a secluded spot where they can avoid prying eyes. Once they get into the car, Hiragi seems a bit unsure about the route. They both reach for the navigation map at the same time, their hands brushing as they look at each other. Sanada takes charge and quickly sets the GPS. Impressed, Hiragi praises him for being so reliable with machines. The drive takes roughly 2 hours, but the time flies as they enjoy a fun conversation on the road. They eventually arrive at a scenic location with a beautiful view. As they sit on a bench, Sanada admires the atmosphere and asks if she has been here before. Hiragi admits that she hasn't. She looked it up beforehand specifically because she wanted to visit a fun place with him. Ready for lunch, she suddenly grabs Sanada's head and pulls him down onto her lap. Flustered by the sudden lap pillow, he asks what is going on. She simply asks if he dislikes it. Unable to deny that he enjoys it, he relaxes while she begins to hand feed him. Sanada thinks to himself that she smells nice and feels incredibly warm and welcoming. Feeling completely pampered, he jokes that he feels like he is becoming a spoiled bum the more time he spends with her. Hiragi laughs, telling him to just submit to it. She playfully declares that once he graduates, she will support him forever. Sanada plays along, saying he will be in her care. She agrees with a smile, but reminds him that until that day comes, they must keep up the good work of keeping their dating life a secret. The next day, during a school quiz, Sanada watches Haruka-san from his desk, thinking that despite their secret relationship, she actually looks like a proper teacher. Their eyes meet across the room, and she shoots him a subtle smile, making him grin and think about how cute she is. As she patrols the aisles and approaches his desk, his heart begins to race nervously. Passing by, she slyly slips a folded note onto his desk. Sanada wonders if she is giving him the test answers, but when he opens the paper, he is baffled to read the words. His mind immediately jumps to the most bizarre conclusion. He tries to dismiss it as a joke, but knowing Hiragi's unpredictable nature, he feels a desperate need to verify the situation, purely for safety purposes, of course. As she walks back down the aisle, Sanada intentionally drops his eraser to the floor. When Hiragi crouches down to pick it up for him, he spots a rogue PE shoe in her path. Realizing that if she trips, she might fall, Sanada panics. He shouts for her to watch out and dives to intercept the fall, crashing to the ground himself. Later at lunch, Sanada finally asks for clarification. Hiragi casually explains that her leggings ripped this morning, so she is simply bare-legged today. He feels like an idiot for overthinking it, while Hiragi teases him. She calls him sneaky, to which he defensively retorts that anyone would have misunderstood that note. Changing the subject, she praises him for his high quiz score and offers a reward. Sanada declines, sincerely saying he did well only because her lessons are easy to understand and he doesn't want to miss a single word she says. Hiragi is taken aback by the heartfelt compliment, but quickly spoils the moment with a harsh, self-deprecating remark that leaves him annoyed. One day during PE class, the teacher orders the students to pair up for passing practice. Sanada freezes, instantly recognizing this specific date. This was the day he humiliated himself by missing an easy shot by a mile, earning him a cruel nickname from the girls in his class. Dread fills him, and he mutters to himself, wondering if he should fake an illness to escape the impending embarrassment. Suddenly, a voice calls out from the stairs. It is Haruka-san, claiming she had some spare time and decided to come watch. The mood instantly shifts as all the boys get excited. She encourages the class to do their best, but Sanada notices her gaze is fixed specifically on him when she wishes him luck. The encouragement works a little too well. Fujimoto declares that today is the day he finally gives his all. The other boys join in, making ridiculous anime-style speeches about unlocking their true power now that a beautiful teacher is watching. Sanada panics, realizing that if he doesn't escape, his disgraceful side will be exposed right in front of Hiragi. However, he notices her holding a camera. When some female students ask if she is seriously filming a PE class, she claims it is for a graduation nostalgia video. Sanada smiles wryly at the excuse, noting that the camera lens has been pointed exclusively at him since she pulled it out. The game begins, and Hiragi cheers enthusiastically from the sidelines. The boys, misunderstanding who she is cheering for, play with their heart and soul. Sanada wants to look cool too, but panic sets in when the ball bounces his way, the memory of his past failure rushing back. Just as he prepares to kick, Hiragi shouts, "Lead with your left hand." Confused by her giving basketball advice during a soccer game, Sanada is momentarily distracted. His body moves on instinct and he accidentally scores a perfect goal. Hiragi cheers, calling him amazing, but the victory is short-lived. Fujimoto, consumed by jealousy, screams that he will bury Sanada in darkness. He unleashes a powerful drive shot directly into Sanada's face, knocking him out cold. Later, he opens one eye to find Hiragi looking down at him. He asks where he is, and she explains he is in the nurse's office. He realizes he is currently resting his head on her lap. She smiles, telling him he looked really cool out on the field. Sanada humbly insists it was just luck, but she says she doesn't care how it happened. Assuring him that the curtains are closed and no one else is there, she leans in close. Suddenly, a girl's voice calls out from the hallway, looking for her big brother. Sanada instantly recognizes the voice as Sana. Realizing his little sister is about to walk in, he panics and tells Hiragi there is no time to explain, squeezing her underneath the narrow bed to hide. Sana enters the room and looks disappointed to see him awake and alert. She mentions hearing a rumor that he was knocked into a coma. Sanada smiles, touched that she rushed over out of worry, but Sana quickly shatters the sentiment by admitting she only came because she wanted to scribble on his unconscious face. As they banter, she leans in uncomfortably close to check a mole on his cheek, asking if it has been disinfected. Beneath the bed, Hiragi is forced to listen to their interaction. She shifts slightly, causing the bed to creak. Sana jumps, asking if the bed just made a weird noise, but Sanada quickly dismisses it as her imagination. Trying to act casual, Sana hands him a water bottle, claiming she just happened to have an extra one. Changing the subject, she interrogates him about his lunch breaks lately. She reveals that their mother suspects he has a girlfriend since he stopped asking for packed lunches. Sana scoffs at the idea, claiming it is impossible for him. Sanada awkwardly lies, stating that a friend has gotten into cooking, and he is simply acting as a taste tester. Sana seems skeptical, but suddenly offers to eat lunch with him from now on so he doesn't burden his friend. Sanada is confused by the sudden proposal until he connects the dots. Sana failed to make friends in her own class and is lonely. When he points this out, she fiercely denies it, claiming she has 100 friends. However, he sees right through the lie and feels a pang of sympathy, imagining her eating alone. Despite feeling bad, he has to decline her offer for today since he already has plans with Haruka-san. Sana hides her disappointment and leaves as the bell rings, warning him not to be late. Once the coast is clear, Sanada calls Hiragi out. She crawls from under the bed, commenting that Sana seems like a good girl, though clearly just a kid at 15. Sensing Hiragi is feeling a bit jealous and insecure about the age difference, Sanada tries to hurry to class. However, she ignores the time, whispering that she wants to stay like this just a little longer. After school, Sanada walks past the cafeteria and spots Sana eating lunch all by herself, looking incredibly lonely. The sight weighs heavily on his mind as he heads to the prep room. There, he rests his head on Hiragi's lap, who insists he needs to take it easy since he was knocked unconscious earlier. As she hand-feeds him, Sanada jokes that he feels like a baby chick. In response, she playfully holds a French fry in her mouth and leans in, challenging him to take it. They share the fry, but their faces end up far too close, leaving them both red-faced. Recovering from the moment, Hiragi asks about Sana. Sanada confirms that his sister is indeed a loner. Hiragi wants to help, but admits she still wants to prioritize their time together. Sanada suddenly has an epiphany and suggests the home economics club as the perfect solution. Later, Sanada approaches Sana with the idea. She immediately dismisses the club as boring, but Sanada presses on, teasing her for being a loner who just goes home to play games. Sana retorts that she reads manga, not games, but he argues it is the same thing and insists the club would help her make friends. She fires back that he has no friends either, to which he childishly lies about having 100 of them. When he reveals that he is also planning to join the club, Sana's attitude shifts. She realizes this means they could walk home together and grudgingly agrees to give it a look, claiming she cannot help it if he cares about her that much. However, she becomes suspicious of his sudden interest in her social life. Sanada cannot admit that Hiragi is the advisor, so he vaguely mentions that there is only one other member she could befriend. Hearing this, Sana's eyes light up with a realization. She loudly accuses him of having ulterior motives, convinced he is joining solely because he has a crush on this mysterious other member. Sanada realizes she has completely misunderstood the situation, but since it gets her to the club, he decides not to correct her as they head to the club room together. Peeking into the club room, Sana spots the sole member and rudely comments on how plain she looks, wondering what she could possibly be having fun with all by herself. Sanada immediately chastises her, asking if a loner like her really has the right to judge others. Ignoring her complaints, he leads them inside. The girl inside flinches, clearly startled by their sudden entrance. Sanada introduces himself and asks if they can observe the club. The girl, introducing herself as Kanata, nervously stands up and mutters that there isn't much to see since they don't do any real activities. From behind the door, Sana notices that Kanata is actually playing a video game. She whispers to her brother, asking what game it is, but he tells her to go ask Kanata herself. Just then, the other door opens, and Hiragi enters, announcing that she is the new advisor for the club. Kanata bows politely. Sana, still hiding, asks who the woman is. Sanada loses patience and drags his sister out from behind the door. Sana protests his bossy behavior, but her attitude shifts the moment she gets a good look at Hiragi. Struck by the teacher's beauty and maturity, Sana instantly decides to join the club, abandoning her earlier hesitation. On the walk home, Sanada tries to encourage Sana by pointing out that she and Kanata share a common interest in video games. Sana brushes this off, her mind focused on something else. She tells Nissan that she got chills watching Hiragi-sensei, claiming her instincts tell her the sensei has a crush on him. Sanada panics internally, wondering if he was too obvious, but Sana's reasoning is purely based on a look. She warns him that Hiragi is a middle-aged woman and his sensei, so doing anything with her would make her a criminal. Sanada snaps back, correcting her that Hiragi is older, not middle-aged. Sana finds his defensiveness over the specific terminology weird and suspicious. She praises Hiragi's mature figure. Sanada scoffs and teases Sana for still dressing like a kid. Embarrassed, Sana calls him a pervert, but he calmly points out that he sees the laundry at home. Flustered, she vows to change her style someday, only for him to remind her that she still shops with their mother, making that impossible. With Kanada, Sana, and Sanada officially part of the Home Economics Club and Hiragi appointed as the advisor, the group begins their activities. However, complications arise immediately. Talking on the phone later, Sanada scolds Haruka-san for nearly exposing them by bringing 2 homemade lunches to the club meeting just like usual. He warns her to be more self-aware to avoid raising suspicion. She promises to reflect on her actions, specifically regarding the lunch ingredients. Sanada then brings up Sana's growing suspicion that the teacher likes him. Hiragi laughs, joking that they are already busted, clearly amused by the situation. Sanada suggests that Sana is just anxious around strangers, but Hiragi, painting her nails on the other end of the line, disagrees. She argues that Sana isn't shy. Rather, she is acting like a protective sister trying to keep a thief away from her beloved brother. Hiragi finds this stubborn competitiveness cute, noting that she understands the feeling since she has a younger sister herself. Sanada suddenly spots Sana approaching and hangs up abruptly, ignoring Hiragi's protests. Lately, Sana has noticed that her brother is constantly busy and frequently on the phone. She strongly suspects Hiragi is involved, though she lacks definitive proof. Her frustration grows as she thinks that an attractive adult woman like Hiragi should find someone her own age to date instead of getting involved with her student. Walking into the club room, Sana finds her brother fast asleep in his chair. She calls out, warning he'll miss lunch, but he doesn't stir. Suspecting he's teasing her, she threatens to blow a kiss if he keeps pretending. She leans close, but just then, the club room door slides open. Hiragi greets them cheerfully, and Sana jumps back, panicked that she might look too close for comfort. Sanada is shaken awake by Sana, who scolds him for oversleeping. As his eyes focus, he notices something is different. Sana is wearing makeup, and her hair is cut short. When he questions her appearance, she casually replies that she is heading to work. Confused, he glances at his phone and realizes it is a modern smartphone. He deduces that he has somehow slipped forward in time. He questions why they are living together, recalling that he should be living alone in this future timeline. Sana reminds him that he was the one who invited her to move in when she started working nearby. She dismisses his confusion as morning grogginess and rushes out the door. Left alone, Sanada wonders if his actions in the past changed the future, and if so, why is he living with his sister instead of Hiragi? Panicked, he tries to call Hiragi to find out the truth. Instantly, the scene shifts. He finds himself back in the club room, his hand frozen mid-air as if holding a phone. Hiragi and the present-day Sana stare at him, mentioning that he has been sleeping with his head in his hands the whole time. Sanada is left bewildered, unable to distinguish between the dream and reality. Later that night, Sanada receives a drunken call from Hiragi and rushes to her apartment, worried. When he rings the bell, she opens the door a crack with the chain still on, demanding a password to enter. She insists the password is for him to say how he feels about her. Blushing furiously, he confesses, "I love you." She turns red and calls him unbelievable, slamming the door shut in embarrassment. A moment later, she opens it again to confess that she loves him too, before running away into the apartment. Sanada stands outside, mentally begging her to actually unlock the door first. Once inside, he sits her down and gives her some water. Hiragi leans in close, asking a strange question. Does his family have a special European-style greeting? Sanada immediately denies it, confused by the specific inquiry. She claims she is just curious because she loves him, then suggests they try that greeting themselves. She leans in to kiss his cheek, flustering Sanada, but suddenly loses consciousness and falls asleep on his shoulder. He carries her to bed, breathing a sigh of relief that the chaotic night is over. However, just as he tries to pull away, she begins to cling to him in her sleep, murmuring. A week later, Hiragi sits outside, exhausted, complaining that she wishes exams didn't exist. Sanada points out that a teacher probably shouldn't say things like that in front of a student. Ignoring the lecture, she tells him to keep his schedule open after the exams are over because she has devised a secret plan for them to stay together. Sanada wryly notes that telling him about it defeats the purpose of it being a secret. The exams pass peacefully and the weekend arrives. Sanada lets himself into Hiragi's apartment using the spare key she gave him, waiting for her to return from work. When she arrives, looking completely drained, Sanada welcomes her home. The sight of him instantly recharges her. She tackles him into a hug, happily musing that once he graduates, their life will be like this every day. To comfort her, he gently pats her head. She blushes at the affection and thanks him. Later, the secret plan commences. Sanada is confused about their destination until they arrive at a luxurious hot spring hotel. He is awed by the high-end facility. Hiragi proudly explains that she chose it for the ocean view and the high-quality seafood dinner. Before they can discuss more, a staff member approaches to help with their luggage, addressing them as the Hiragi couple. After guiding them to their room, the hostess asks Mrs. Hiragi if they would like dinner served immediately. She confirms the time, but as soon as the staff member leaves, she laughs and playfully nudges Sanada, delighted that the hostess mistook them for a married couple. He suddenly remembers she was cut off earlier when describing the room's amenities. Hiragi smiles, takes his hand, and leads him further into the suite. She slides open a door, revealing the best part of the room, a private indoor hot spring. The next morning, the couple stands on the balcony, admiring the beautiful ocean view. Hiragi suggests they go down to the beach. Walking hand in hand along the shoreline, Hiragi enjoys the scenery, but Sanada is distracted, nervously clutching something in his hand. He wonders if it is the right time, but eventually gathers his courage. He hands her a small present, telling her it is a token of appreciation for all her hard work. Hiragi opens it to reveal a beautiful scrunchie. She smiles, calling it cute, but suddenly bursts into happy tears. She loves that it is simple and not too gaudy, making it perfect for her to use at work. Touched that he thought about her so much, she tackles him into a hug, causing them both to tumble onto the sand. Lying there, they exchange heartfelt confessions of love. Sanada realizes that to onlookers, they probably look like a foolish couple. However, he accepts that foolishness is essential to falling in love. Without it, romance wouldn't be fun at all. Back at school, the students immediately notice Hiragi's new accessory. They tease her, guessing that a boyfriend must have given it to her since happiness is written all over her face. Hiragi plays coy, giving a vague answer while shooting a secret, affectionate glance at Sanada in the back of the classroom. The bell rings, and she calls the class to order, wearing the gift he gave her with pride. It all begins during lunch when Sana accuses Hiragi-san of being a total slouch when it comes to housework. She defends herself, claiming she makes handmade lunches every day, but Kanata chimes in to expose the truth. While they started handmade, Hiragi has recently been relying on microwave meals. Sana smugly points out that the teacher was clearly just trying to appeal to Sanada's stomach initially. Provoked by the taunts, Hiragi drops her smile and gets competitive, declaring that she cooked to prove she is better than them, not just to show off. Sana raises her voice and officially challenges her to a duel. They decide on a club showdown in 2 days to see who truly reigns supreme. Kanata joins the fray, confidently stating that cooking requires theoretical knowledge and predicting her own victory. However, Sana remains confident, believing that as Sanada's sister, she knows his tastes better than anyone. The day of the food war arrives, and the chosen theme is Sanada's favorite dish, fried chicken. 3 different versions are placed before the judge. Hiragi is up first. Her chicken is soaked in a sweet vinegar sauce. Sana analyzes the dish and realizes Hiragi used the broad-mindedness of an adult to her advantage. She knows exactly how much high school boys love sticky, salty sweet flavors. Sanada eats it with gusto, proving Hiragi's strategy effective. Next is Sana's turn. She is brimming with confidence, having utilized the ultimate weapon, their mother's perfect recipe. She watches Sanada take a bite, expecting him to be overcome with brotherly love and praise. However, he simply chews and comments that it tastes exactly like it does at home. Sana is crushed by the lackluster reaction. She demands to know why he isn't more impressed, insisting that it is delicious. Sanada agrees that it is yummy, but points out that since it is just their mom's recipe, it lacks any surprise factor. Hiragi advises the defeated sister that next time she needs to come up with her own original twist. As Sana sulks in disappointment, Kanata gently tries to comfort her. Later, Haruka and Seiji go on a date in disguise, fulfilling her wish for a secret outing. Sanada worries that their plan is backfiring, as a woman acting this excited while wearing dark sunglasses indoors is only drawing more attention. Ignoring his concern, Hiragi points to a women's clothing shop and drags him inside. Sanada realizes too late. Hiragi holds up various undergarments, asking him to choose which one looks better. Flustered and trying not to look directly at the merchandise, Sanada vaguely replies that both are good. Suddenly, he hears a familiar voice arguing with a sales clerk. It is Sana, loudly insisting that she is a big girl, while the clerk tries to explain that the size she wants is too large for her. Recognizing his sister, Sanada whispers to Hiragi that they need to leave immediately. However, before they can escape, Sana spots them and shouts out to her teacher. Hiragi panics, awkwardly claiming she is not Hiragi, while Sanada mentally facepalms at her terrible acting. Hiragi whispers to Sanada that running away now would look even more suspicious, so they stand their ground. Sana approaches, peering closely at Sanada's disguise. To his immense relief, she assumes he is just Hiragi's boyfriend and does not recognize him. Sana explains that she is buying new underwear because her brother makes fun of her current ones. Hiragi, seizing the opportunity to tease, asks if she is buying them to show Sanada. Sana clarifies that she doesn't want to show him, but rather doesn't want to free him of his duty. Hiragi gives Sanada a judgmental look, and he shakes his head frantically. Sana keeps complaining that the clerk keeps suggesting smaller sizes. To end the conversation, Sanada disguises his voice and tells her to imagine she'll grow quickly. Sana's eyes light up at the advice. Feeling inspired, she runs back to argue with the clerk again. Once she is gone, Hiragi teases Sanada about checking his sister's clothes, ignoring his protests that it is a huge misunderstanding. Later that night at home, Sanada sits in his room, relieved they survived the close call. Suddenly, Sana knocks and barges in before he can answer. He shakes his head and tells her she's still just a kid. Sana protests loudly, insisting he shouldn't underestimate her super high school level spirit. Sanada smirks and dryly corrects her, more like super high school level children's spirit. The school's biggest event, the class trip, has arrived. For Sanada, this is actually his second time experiencing this trip due to his time slip. He notices Hiragi sitting in the van as a supervisor and wonders what kind of strings she pulled to get assigned here. Sitting next to Sanada, Fujimoto decides to shoot his shot. He asks Hiragi if she currently has a boyfriend. She hesitates for a split second, but smiles and claims she does not. Fujimoto celebrates, thinking this means he has a chance. Hiragi winks, mentioning that she is responsible for Sanada's group and is looking forward to it. Upon arriving at the lodge, Sanada warns Fujimoto not to sneak into the girl's bath, reminding him of the previous time he got caught and punished. Fujimoto ignores him, rallying the other boys to sneak a peek, leaving Sanada alone in the room, exasperated. Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. When he opens it, Hiragi appears, explaining she is making rounds to ensure no one breaks the rules. After confirming he is alone, she notes with a teasing smile that the boys are likely plotting mischief. Just then, voices echo from the hallway. Fujimoto and the others are returning early, complaining about missing their chance. Panic sets in, and Sanada realizes he must hide. Together, he and Hiragi scramble into a closet as they try not to be noticed. The boys enter the room, confused to find it empty. One comments that Sanada must be in the bathroom. Once the boys leave, Sanada and Hiragi step out. Hiragi notes that she really should go warn the boys and stop them, but admits with a blush that the close call made her heart race more than usual. Sanada, looking at her flushed face, can only blush in return. The first day concludes, and the second day of the school trip begins with a pottery class. The instructor tells the students to sign their clay creations clearly so they can be identified after firing. Sanada looks at his work, pleased that his mug turned out better than expected. Hiragi approaches him, complimenting his craftsmanship. When Sanada asks what she made, she presents a rather misshapen object. He politely guesses it is a vase, but Hiragi corrects him, insisting it is a cup, just poorly made. Sanada thinks she looks adorable in her embarrassment. They decide to sign their works, and both seem to have the same secret idea for their inscriptions. Later that night, once Fujimoto and the other boys are fast asleep, Sanada lies awake in bed. His phone vibrates with a message from Hiragi asking if he is awake because she wants to see him and show him something. Sanada sneaks out into the corridor and finds Hiragi waiting on a sofa. She immediately hugs him, whispering that she missed him. When Sanada points out that they saw each other all afternoon, she clarifies that she saw him as a teacher then. This is the first time all day she gets to see him as his girlfriend. She takes his hand and leads him to a bench outside. The view is breathtaking, illuminated by a bright full moon. Hiragi admits that she just wanted to spend some quiet time with him. Holding hands, she muses that there is only 1 year and 10 months left until he graduates. While she looks forward to the future, she admits she will miss the thrill of their current life, sneaking notes in the office, feeding him lunch. Sanada brings up her previous promise to support him financially, but firmly states that he intends to work. Hiragi is surprised, but he explains that he doesn't want to dump all the hard work onto her. He wants to work hard for her sake. Hiragi tears up, feeling guilty that she is always selfishly dragging him around. Sanada pulls her close, telling her that he fell in love with her exactly as she is, so she can drag him wherever she likes. With renewed confidence, Hiragi makes a selfish request for their future. She suggests that Sanada go to college and become a teacher so he can return to this high school. That way, they can eventually be married co-workers. Sanada is surprised by the specific plan. She quickly adds that she might even be open to marrying him while he is still in college, though she flusters immediately after saying it. Sanada smiles and agrees to move forward with that future together. The scene ends revealing the mugs they made earlier. Hiragi's mug is inscribed with H for S, and Sanada's mug reads S for H. The next day, Hiragi invites Sanada into her apartment, cheerfully announcing over the intercom that she has made delicious food. However, when he walks through the door, he looks terrible, flushed and exhausted. He apologizes for keeping her waiting, but Hiragi immediately realizes he is sick and rushes him inside. She tucks him into her bed and sits beside him. When Sanada wakes up a moment later, she asks how he is feeling. He tries to get up to leave, worried that he will pass his cold on to her if he stays. Hiragi firmly pushes him back down, insisting that he needs to rest or he will only get worse. Touching his forehead, she confirms he is burning up. She asks if he can eat anything, suggesting some rice gruel. Sanada feels guilty that she cooked for him when he can barely eat, but she tells him not to worry about it. She brings the food and gently hand-feeds him. However, he has little appetite and cannot finish it. Seeing he is too weak, she asks if he can take his medicine on his own. When he doesn't respond, Hiragi takes a sip of the liquid medicine herself and then gives it to him. Sanada weakly pushes her away, protesting that she will definitely get infected. Hiragi simply dismisses his concern, telling him that sick people shouldn't worry about such things. Sanada falls back asleep and slips into a dream. In it, he sees a slightly older, more mature Hiragi. It seems to be a vision of their future where their relationship has progressed, yet they remain as flirty and affectionate as ever. After some time, Sanada wakes up feeling significantly better. He looks to his side and finds Hiragi sleeping on the floor, holding his hand. He smiles, realizing she must have stayed up all night watching over him. When she wakes up and asks how he is, he tells her he feels great and thanks her. She rubs her eyes, repeating that he shouldn't worry about it, and kisses him. She then sneezes loudly. Sanada asks if she caught his cold, and though she tries to deny it, her continuous sneezing proves otherwise. Now the roles are reversed, and it is Sanada who prepares food for the patient. He enters the room to check on Haruka, who is lying in bed feeling heavy and lethargic. She apologizes for catching his cold, but Sanada simply smiles and repeats her own words back to her. Sick people should not fret over that kind of stuff. He offers her some handmade rice gruel, but Hiragi quickly pulls the blanket over her head, refusing to let him see her in such a messy, feverish state. Sanada coaxes her out, assuring her that she is super cute even with a fever. Flustered but pleased, she finally emerges to eat. After finishing the meal and taking her medicine, Hiragi complains that the fever has made her sweat profusely, and she feels gross. Thanks to his dedicated care, she makes a full recovery by the following day. The next day, Hiragi's younger sister, Natsumi, stands outside Hiragi's apartment. She considers ringing the doorbell, but decides against it. Instead, she plans to sneak in and surprise her sister, hoping to see a shocked expression on Hiragi's usually composed face. Using the spare key entrusted to her by their mother, Natsumi unlocks the door and creeps inside. She heads straight for the bedroom and dives onto the bed, rolling around while complaining about how lonely she has been sleeping alone since Hiragi moved out. However, she pauses when she detects a faint, unfamiliar scent on the sheets, the scent of a boy. Natsumi immediately wonders if her sister has a boyfriend, though she indignantly thinks Hiragi doesn't need one when she already has such a cute little sister. Suddenly, the front door opens, and Natsumi hears voices. She prepares to jump out and scare Hiragi, but she freezes when she hears a male voice asking if they bought too many ingredients. Natsumi listens from the bedroom, realizing Hiragi sounds genuinely happy. She peeks through the door to get a look at the mystery guest and is confused to see a boy who looks very young. She wonders if her sister is actually dating. Her suspicions are confirmed when Sanada points out that a party of two isn't much of a party, addressing Hiragi. She lightly scolds him, reminding him not to call her that in private. Natsumi is thunderstruck, unable to believe that her serious, responsible sister is dating her own student. While eavesdropping outside the bedroom door, Natsumi leans in too close and accidentally bumps against it. Inside, Sanada and Hiragi freeze. He whispers that he heard a noise, and Hiragi agrees, instantly suspecting a burglar. When Sanada instructs Hiragi to call the police immediately, Natsumi panics. Terrified of being arrested, she shouts through the door for them to stop and reveals herself. Hiragi is shocked to see her little sister. Natsumi explains she was hiding to surprise them, and Hiragi dryly remarks that the mission succeeded. Introducing Sanada, Natsumi immediately asks who he is. Flustered from the near police call, Hiragi almost calls him her boyfriend but quickly improvises, saying he's a thief she happened to meet. Sanada is baffled by the excuse but decides to play along, introducing himself as a thief. Natsumi is skeptical, pointing out that she saw them kissing passionately earlier. She demands to know if Hiragi kisses random thieves she just met. Hiragi, committed to the lie, shamelessly admits that yes, she kisses thieves passionately. Natsumi is horrified, thinking her serious sister has a hidden wild side, but surprisingly, she believes the explanation. Sanada adds to the story, claiming Hiragi caught him stealing because he was starving, so she decided to feed him. Natsumi buys this story completely, leaving Sanada wondering why she is so gullible. Later, Sanada prepares to leave. Natsumi sternly warns him never to steal again. Sanada apologizes and promises to reform. As he walks out, Natsumi suspiciously points to his bag, noting it looks like an overnight bag, but Sanada quickly deflects and escapes. As he walks down the street, Sanada thinks that Natsumi is actually quite sharp despite her gullibility. Suddenly, Hiragi runs up behind him. She explains she told Natsumi she was bringing him something he forgot so she could sneak out to say goodbye. She apologizes for the chaos, but Sanada laughs, saying it was cute compared to his own sister. Hiragi smiles and leans in, but Sanada stops her, pointing behind her. Hiding behind a telephone pole, Natsumi is watching closely, muttering under her breath that there better be no more surprises. A week later, Natsumi walks down the street, still pondering the bizarre events of the previous week. She finds it difficult to believe that a thief broke into Hiragi's house, yet seemed so well-mannered. Even stranger was how taken Hiragi seemed with him. He didn't seem like the type to stoop to thievery. Shaking off the confusion, she decides there is no point in overthinking it and resolves to pay Hiragi another surprise visit today. Her mission is interrupted when she spots a stray cat. Instantly mesmerized, Natsumi picks it up, asking where it came from. The cat meows and affectionately licks her nose, tickling her. However, a passing bicycle rings its bell loudly, startling the animal. The cat hisses and leaps out of her arms, landing on a high perch unreachable. Natsumi apologizes to the cat and tries to coax it back down. She grabs a branch from a nearby bush and waves it like a toy, but the cat ignores her. Desperate, she crouches on the ground and starts meowing loudly, trying to communicate in cat language. While she is making a fool of herself meowing at a wall, Hiragi approaches from behind and calls her name. Natsumi turns around, relieved to see her. Upon seeing her sister acting strangely in public, she deadpans, "Sorry, I thought you were someone else," and starts to walk away. Natsumi chases after her, yelling for her to stop pretending. Once they arrive home, Hiragi scolds Natsumi, telling her to contact her beforehand next time. She also admonishes her for her strange behavior in the park, adding that she is just glad no one was around to see it. Natsumi apologizes and promises to be more careful. Hiragi opens the fridge, noting that if she had known Natsumi was coming, she would have bought dinner. Since there is nothing prepared, Hiragi smiles and suggests they make curry together. Natsumi lights up at the idea. Hiragi teases her, asking if she still likes it sugary sweet, but Natsumi insists she is grown up enough to handle mild spice now. They search for ingredients, and Natsumi spots the onions. Hiragi suggests that Natsumi handle the chopping. She is shocked that she has to do the cutting but takes the knife. Hiragi stands behind her, guiding her hand and teaching her how to relax and cut the onion in half safely. As they cook, Hiragi comments on how much Natsumi has grown, recalling how small she used to be. Once the food is ready, they sit down to eat. Natsumi praises the curry, though Hiragi humbly insists it is just a regular recipe. Glancing at the calendar, Natsumi notes that it is already July and asks if teachers get summer breaks. Hiragi giggles, enjoying the casual chatter. When Natsumi asks if something's funny, Hiragi shakes her head, saying she's just happy. It's been a long time since they spent time together. To bond more, Natsumi suggests they take a bath after doing the dishes. They wash up, helping each other like when they were kids. The space is tight but cozy. Suddenly she gets serious and asks, "Hiragi, are you and that thief dating?"
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.